Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everybody, I'm Preacher Miles, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope they're having a fabulous Tuesday. Listen, brothers and sisters, there's been a lot of things in the news, one of which reminds us that we are not in control of our climate. What I say is not in control of our climate. Of course, I'm referring to the recent hurricane that we had down in the Gulf area of New Orleans, Mississippi, Alabama, and the like. I'm talking about Hurricane Ida. Now, a lot of people don't understand when we talk about hurricanes, we think about hurricanes in terms of its destruction, hurricanes in terms of loss of life. We don't really look at the overall space about hurricanes as a geographic, I want to say a geographic marker in the context for what climate change is going to look like. Now, before I get into this long conversation, let me be very, very clear, brothers and sisters. Climate change is not the reason for the hurricane. We can't claim that. What we can claim is that there have been changes in the climate that make it permissible, per se. The temperature of water in the Gulf has been rising for quite a number of years, which makes hurricane season even that more deadly. Now, we can't necessarily change that. But what we can change is begin to look at the aspects of how hurricanes and natural disasters impact us. Hurricanes, basically, brothers and sisters, are the number one natural disaster that happens in the United States. Not earthquakes, not fires. We're talking hurricanes. If you ever think about it, we don't really name our fires. We don't name our floods, but we do name our hurricanes. And there's a whole litany of reasons why that goes into that. But looking at the last aspect in terms of hurricanes, I want to start delving down because, of course, over 16 years ago, we had Hurricane Katrina. And in the city of Houston, they've had two hurricanes, actually three: Hurricane Rita, they had Hurricane Harvey, and they had Hurricane Ike. All of them. Now, none of them to be taken lightly. Rita, Ike, Harvey, Katrina, and of course, this one, Hurricane Ida. And I think the thing we should also look at the fact is that when we have hurricanes, brothers and sisters, to tell you the magnitude of what kind of a natural disaster event it is, you usually have 3 to 4 to 5 days to prepare for a hurricane, meaning that you can leave town, you can drive, you can board up your shops. This is a psychological imperative that we have to be able to look at. And I'm saying it, brothers and sisters, because I'm looking at the other aspect, the human capacity aspect of hurricanes. As we begin to have more and more, and the hurricane season is going to do one or two things, which is either going to be longer or it's going to be more severe. Neither one of those are good places to be. But I think we need to look at the aspect of how hurricanes are impacting human life, the capacity to live life in these areas. And I also want to juxtaposition it against other things that are going on in politics that have to do with quote unquote climate change. But I think we do get involved with climate change, and that's a bit of a catchphrase for people. But we're going to also talk about in this episode, we're going to speak about infrastructure. We're going to talk about the infrastructure of the United States, the roads, the bridges, and what these things do, like these hurricanes and these fires. What they do is they reveal in a very natural way that our infrastructure is old, damaged, and fragile. Now, people say, Preach, what does that mean that the infrastructure is old, damaged, and fragile? What it means, brothers and sisters, is that it carries a large amount of weight in the context of how people are going to be able to live. See, one of the things about Hurricane Katrina, a lot of people don't remember. People go, how are those folks trapped down there? The truth of the matter, brothers and sisters, is that in Hurricane Katrina, per se, what they didn't talk about was the aspect of human life that was lost because they didn't have the ability to engage mobility, brothers and sisters, to be able to get out of a location. Now, this one was different, and reason why Hurricane Ida was different in the city of New Orleans. Let me point this out. In the city of New Orleans, the reason it was different was because they dumped over $14 billion worth of money into infrastructure, the levees and things like that. Ironically, the cities outside, roughly, I don't know, 60 to 70 miles, maybe an hour and a half outside of New Orleans, were absolutely devastated. Why were they devastated, brothers and sisters? because they weren't benefiting from that $14 billion in infrastructure. Interesting topic. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for tuning in. This is Preacher Monster Shout Out Show. Let's get it rolling. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful day. If you're not, I know how to make it brighter. That's right, brothers and sisters. The 2021 ISNA Virtual Conference is coming to you Labor Day weekend. Now you're saying, preach, a virtual conference? Absolutely. Which means that we can be seen anywhere, anytime, by anybody, and it doesn't cost you anything. What am I saying here, brothers and sisters? I'm saying you have an opportunity to tie into your legacy. This is not just the Islamic Society of North America. This is your legacy. Protect your legacy, grow your legacy, and make sure that you're coming through and tell people, everybody, that the person that told you this was a good-looking Muslim man. He might have looked like Preacher Moss, who's also a good-looking Muslim man, but you tell him, no, it was Mr. ISNA. That's right. Make sure you're at the ISNA Virtual Conference 2021. You don't want to miss it, because this is your time to be just as good looking as me. Take care. I love talking about me. Not just kidding. Listen, brothers and sisters, we just want to reiterate this weekend. If you don't know by now, then you've been sleeping. You haven't been on the show, you know, it's the weekend. It's coming up, the 2020 ISNA virtual conference, or virtual convention, if you will. It's going to be on Saturday and Sunday. You're going to have a kickoff town hall on Friday. So make sure you tune in. All you have to do, you don't have to spend any money. You don't have to spend any money. Go to isna.net and you register, and they will give you a link. You'll be able to see all the speakers. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. So let's get at this thing about hurricanes. Now they say the deadliest natural disaster in the United States, 1900 hurricane in Galveston, Texas. Why do I say Galveston, Texas? Because Galveston is right in the middle of it. It's in that space. It's Galveston. It's Lake Charles, it's New Orleans, it's Houston, it's Texas City. It's all these places around that Gulf area. And what's happened over the last couple of years, it's not rocket science, brothers and sisters. This is not rocket science. We have a scenario where Mother Nature has figured out that we don't have the infrastructure to fight it anymore. Number one, to fight it anymore, but Mother Nature has also figured out a way to punish us for damaging the ecosystem in the first place. You know, they always say that in a flood, when something floods, you can't stop water from going where it wants to go. Well, this is a prime example of what we're talking about. And ironically, as we talk about all these other things, we talk about COVID, we talk about vaccines, we're talking about Afghanistan, we're talking about Roe versus Wade being possibly affected here in the next couple of hours. We are not talking about the ecosystem, about where we live, about the infrastructure that is supposed to be able to support the United States. I saw something on TV. I saw it on the news, not on television. I saw it on the internet. And this is what I'm talking about. In the state of Mississippi, I think it's Highway 26 or something like that, one of these small towns, a large sinkhole, probably about half a football field, a little bit of half the football field, as a result of Hurricane Ida, a large sinkhole just happened on a highway. And people couldn't see it at night. And people actually drove into the sinkhole. And I'm not making jokes. They drove into the sinkhole. 2 people were killed, 10 people injured, and 2 of them critically. Now you would sit here thinking, what happened to the road? Listen to what I'm saying, brothers and sisters. I'm driving, and I find myself in a ditch that's 20 feet. And I go, what happened to the road? If I'm blessed, I go, what happened to the road? Because I just said 2 people were killed. And these things are not incidental. They're not coincidences, brothers and sisters. This is a long see, and we have to be careful about how we look at our media and how we source our information. We just had a show recently where we talked about. I went back. We talked about in 2005. We talked about Katrina, but we also talked about the earthquake in Darak, Indonesia, Banda Aceh. I'm talking about in 1500 in 1900 in Galveston, 8,000 people were killed. They say it may even been up to 12,000 people were killed by hurricane. In Banda Aceh, over 200,000 people were killed. In Haiti, over 200,000 people were killed, and we're not getting the news. Now, in the United States is a little bit different because we're supposed to be a developed country, but there are things where we do fall down. Our infrastructure is dangerous. And when I say it's dangerous, it means that it reflects a certain economic intention. Also, it reflects a certain economic imposition of will. The imposition of will. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I saw a great article on Ida uh, right before it happened. They had a guy who had been down in ninth ward in Louisiana, in New Orleans. And what they said, brothers and sisters, was the fact that there's a large group of homes from Hurricane Katrina that have not been repaired. A large group of them that have not been repaired. However, new construction, hear me now, new construction is right down the street. So a house that was worth maybe $30,000, the new construction is now worth $150,000, $170,000. And you would say, how come this part isn't? And the other part is, we're not talking about people as human capital, okay? We're talking about people as folks that have a right to a certain dignity, a certain quality of life. Nobody talks about the insurance company that rips these people off. But, insurance companies be damned in that space, brothers and sisters. At least in Katrina, for this time, they got over $14 billion to deal with that levee. The levee that let almost 80% of the water in, let all the water in, flooded 80% of the city. You know what part of the city got flooded? Now we start to unravel this because I watched a lot of this Hurricane Ida stuff. And I think, some of you guys probably did the same thing, but I was like, where's the intention about making sure that people can restore their lives? That people can have confidence that I am going to leave in the middle of a natural disaster. And when I come back, whatever the damage is, I'll be able to rebuild. That tune, brothers and sisters, that mantra, you don't even hear. I'm going to rebuild. We're going to rebuild. You don't hear about people rebuild anymore. And I thought about why. One of the reasons people don't want to rebuild because they don't trust the infrastructure on which they are living, existing. When Hurricane Harvey went through Houston, Texas, several things happened. The mayor, they have a black mayor, Mayor Sylvester Turner, nice man. Normally, they have an evacuation route out of the city. Evacuation route out of the city. This man said to everyone in his own space, he said to everyone, he said, it's no need to run. He told everybody to hunker down. He said, hunker down. He said, wherever you are, shelter in place, hunker down. And I asked the question, I said, why did he say hunker down? And the reason he said that was because they knew the extent of their ability to do anything with the infrastructure in the city of Houston and its surrounding suburbs, right? And when I say things that are infrastructure, or like I was talking to my father earlier today, and we talked about things like bridges, things that connect communities. We talked about the quality of roads that allow you to travel from point A to point B. We talked about commerce, traveling, on the road, truckers and things like that. And it has to be, brothers and sisters. If you understand urban planning and things like that, you have to understand that there's a system to all of this, and that part of the system has to be maintained. It absolutely has to be maintained. When we talk about infrastructure, think about the other things, not just the roads. We're talking about the quality of houses, how houses are built. You see houses with mudslides and things like that. Let's talk about schools. Schools are part of infrastructure. I can't tell you how long, and I'm pretty sure I taught in a school that had asbestos in it. Yeah, I taught in a school that had asbestos in it. And not only did I teach in it, teachers before me taught it, and students were in that. Can you imagine being in a school and you're teaching 20 years and you have asbestos, you have cancer causing agents in the ceiling, you're inhaling it, brothers and sisters. We're going through it right now. I was looking at a comedy club to do my comedy festival in DC. One of the things they said they had just put in a new ventilation system to make sure the air went through. Now, if they're doing that for a comedy club, why are they not doing that for a school? And it's not me being picky, brothers and sisters. It's not being picky or anything like that. But we know and we see hurricanes coming. We know, we have knowledge forward that we're going to be dealing with hurricanes. And I'm not talking about Ida, and I'm not talking about Harvey, I'm not talking about Ike, I'm talking about the fact that we know that these things can change the course of a city. I mean, I hope you guys don't forget, but in the city of Houston, in the state of Texas, which is one of the warmest areas you could be, they went to a deep freeze. Y'all remember Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, in the middle of a dead freeze? He went to Mexico to get warm. And then he came back and just rubbing everybody's face that he was warm and they weren't. He came back, he didn't even have a jacket on, or windbreaker, or a hoodie. And we laughed at Ted Cruz. But we also overlooked the fact that there was a grid problem. And that grid problem affected the electric, because Texas is the only state, I believe, that's not on the electric grid, because they believe that they can handle it on their own. Good luck with that one. But even Texas and the politicians, I mean, in the middle of this giant boondoggle, managed to skirt the issue that the city of all the major cities, Houston, Austin, Dallas, the state of Texas overall, that this deep freeze revealed in a very graphic way that the state of Texas has major infrastructure problems, buildings cracking, ceilings leaking, foundations shifting. And I keep saying, why do we not understand that? What are we not getting at? I'm gonna think about it, but I'm gonna bring some of my family on. Let's get some of the shout out family on, sister. All right, we got Sister Ree. What's going on, Sister Ree? How are you? You doing well? Sister Ree is she's doing her own infrastructure. Sister Ree cooking and making that money. Sister Ree, hey, I'm your brother. Just keep cooking that food. Don't fight with the Mexicans. Don't fight with the Mexicans. Just go and make them give them some food. Just practice your Spanish. Food, sí. That's all you need. The dinero. Learn all the Spanish words that have to do with money. All right. What's going on, Mama San? Checking in. Well wishes for the SOS family. Appreciate you. Mama San knows about that whole thing about infrastructure. We've been talking about this for years as well. All right. Thank you for joining the show. Next up, we got Sister Sakina Mujahid, all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina. Walaikum assalam rahmatullah barakatuh. May Allah protect those in the way of the hurricane and keep them safe. I mean. Yes. Because people don't know, when a hurricane comes through, people don't know the subtext afterwards. They don't understand the subtext after what it means to kind of rebuild and reshuffle and redefine your life around natural disasters. Difficult. All right. Adam Khan all the way from Ontario, my brother. How you doing? Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Got to see you. Got to give a shout out to my main man, Terrence Pumpsy Brown. I see him in the corner. Terrence and I grew up together. I got to give Terrence that shout out. Big shout out to you, Terrence. I hope you and your family doing well. And big shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Brown. I don't call him by their first name. You know how we roll. Old school. Give Mr. and Mrs. Brown a big hello from me, a big hug, and shout out to your sister Tyra as well. All right. Got Sister Ika. Sister Ika, we hope everything's going well. Hope that your father's feeling better. Got to get that sugar down. Making the water, he gets that sugar down. All right. Thank you for coming on the show. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Next up. Who we got next, Sister Satana? Okay, we got Mr. 6 o'clock. I'll talk for she. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Canadian ambassador to the show, my brother. I always wanted to ask you and Adam on the show, man. Do you and Adam in Canada have, did they talk about issues of climate change in Canada? That's a big question I want to know. They talk about climate change in Canada because it seems to be cold right on time in Toronto and hot right on time. So just want to throw that out there. Let me know. Next up, little brother JT. What's going on? Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Talking about that infrastructure. I was just in Milwaukee. Milwaukee they have the weirdest infrastructure in the world. It's like they built up everything around, and in the black community, they tried to keep it looking like 1962. Just a thought. I had to throw that out. They have the oldest looking schools in the world. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Eric, what's going on, man? You know you royalty, brother. You a shout out show soul, the shout out show family. In fact, Terrence Brown, he is my shout out show family too. Honorary. Like we go back knee high to grasshoppers. That's all right. All right. So my mom says hurricanes, fires, tornadoes, etc. represents man's natural population control. Okay, or lack of population control. I didn't get into that part. And we got Sister Satana on the ones and twos on the production piece. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Satana working the back end, make sure this thing happens correctly. All right. So let me throw some things out. And I don't want to lose this thought. But let me throw some things out. In the midst of everything that's going on with Afghanistan, everything that's going on with Afghanistan, COVID, all this type of stuff. Something interesting happened that was a little bit off the radar. While Joe Biden was trying to explain to everybody about why he withdrew. I mean, come on, bro. It's 20 years. And when did all of a sudden get to be a 20-year war, man? I didn't know we were fighting a war all the time. I thought we were just occupying. We weren't fighting a war. That's a lie. Just so you know, it was like it's 20 years. It was like the Taliban was there from 96 to 2001. And then everybody knows that when 9/11 hit and they thought they were going to blast it off the face of the earth, brothers and sisters, they sent in surrenders. They tendered surrenders to of course, George Bush and Donald Rumsfeld, the devil, he rejected the surrender. So I'm like, how are you going to have a war with people that are surrendering? Satan, you might want to look that up. How do you have a war with people that's steady trying to surrender? The only way you could do that is keep them fighting. The only thing they're fighting over that oil and that opium, that oil and the white witch. That's what we call it. The white witch, the white horse. I should have had that song queued up. If you want to ride the white pony. Okay, I can't say that anymore. Okay. Although says, yeah, climate change is the topic up here. We have more and more forest fires and the ice up north melting more rapidly. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because even out west, the not just the amount of forest fires they have, but ironically, the severity of the forest fires. Because when it scorches earth, you really can't use that earth again. And the absence of water and things like that, the fact that we damage aquifers all around the country, drilling, building new stuff. We have not been able to counterbalance that with infrastructure. And I'm thinking about what Brother Altaf said. You know, a lot of building happened in Toronto. Um, since I used to go up there, a lot of building. I'm talking about building on building on building on building. You know, and brothers and sisters, and to something that my mama said, my mama said that the fact of the fact of the matter is when you create these populations, there has to be a counterbalance, and it hasn't been a counterbalance. Okay, so I'm not going to get into climate change, but I'm like, think about that. If you have a school that normally carries 900 people, now you have a school that's carrying 1,900 people. You have to begin to think about, well, how do we balance it out? Do you build another school? Do we change? And I've been in education for a long time. I've been in education for a long time. One of the saddest things you will have to do is walk to a building that's not well maintained. And when I say not well maintained, I mean not, the janitor doesn't do. I'm talking about the fact that materials used to build the building are no longer realistic. The bricks are breaking. Buildings that are made of bricks, they don't hold heat well. So when students come in, they have to keep their coat on because they're colder longer. It's drafty, things like that. And that infrastructure, of course, it affects quality of life. Now, I was about to forget this, but I'm going to remember this. Like I said, in the middle of everything that's going on, IDA, we have a major infrastructure bill that's in the Congress right now. That infrastructure bill is over $3 trillion. Now, I'm not going to get into who said what, but one party, the Republicans, all of a sudden want to delay the vote on the infrastructure bill. Now, I didn't say they were smart Republicans, because when the infrastructure money comes out, it goes to everybody. Everybody's hurting in terms of being able to. And I'm not saying that situations, buildings are dilapidated, but they have issues. When you build a building, it's like if you go to the ruins. You go to the ruins. You know why they call the ruins? Because they've been there over a period of time. They're not in their natural pristine state, which means that air, water, all that heat, they wear on it, and it takes away from the functionality of the space. This is why infrastructure is really, really important. And I also want to put this out that the scope of planning, urban planning, needs to be a lot better. It needs to be a lot better. And this is why I'm saying this. Because it seems like urban planning for all the upscale apartments and buildings and large houses, it seems like it's very well thought out. But at the same time, people who are struggling, people who don't have the money and the mobility to go move to the suburbs and things like that, where they are is kept almost in a time capsule. And they are slaves and victims to poor construction or outdated construction or unsafe buildings or unsafe ventilating systems. And nobody's talking about that. That's why I'm saying, yeah, we got to get this infrastructure bill through, because half the people who are talking about infrastructure know what they're talking about, but it's a gazillion people who don't understand what the large ramifications are. I hate to say it, it's almost like the argument about vaccine and taking the vaccine, not taking the vaccine. All right, we got fight the power, fight the power word on Satana. Fight the power. What you talking about today? The mistake they made with the freeway system was thinking more freeways equals less congestion. Now they are reversing that and removing freeways to encourage alternate forms of transportation. Yes. Yes. Thank you, brother. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Infrastructure is not just building things. Infrastructure is like, hey, upgrade the subway system. Look, I'm originally from Washington, D.C., right? I was born in Washington, D.C., lived in the suburbs. Okay. One of the greatest things that Mayor Marion Barry did, okay, you can say whatever you want to about Marion Barry, but that's my man. Okay, shut up. That's my man. One of the greatest things he ever did was something called the Metro Rail. And the Metro Rail connected parts of Washington, D.C., to parts of Maryland, to parts of Virginia that allowed people in certain parts of DC that didn't have cars to take the metro and go to places and compete and apply for jobs. I'm telling you, people, this is one of the most amazing aspects of infrastructure that there was. You know, in New York City has a famous subway because you can get around New York City with no car. Think about that. But when you go down south, they don't have subways. They don't have a lot of subways. Did you notice that? Satana, did you know when you go down south, they don't have a bunch of subways? And black people kind of stuck and Latinos kind of stuck. Milwaukee doesn't have a subway. They got an extensive bus system, but hell, it's cold in Milwaukee. Everybody trying to be on the bus all day. But I'm saying, brothers and sisters, these are things that I have to look at because it's so much more than a brick or some mud or caulk or window pane. We're talking about how people are able to express and engage their own mobility. It's difficult. You know, when they built the highways, a lot of people think the highways for cars. No, the highways were interstate commerce. They were built for trucks to bring goods, take goods, and transport goods. And then human beings said, "Oh, look at the freeway." Now the freeway, like Fight the Power Words, you know, now it's congestion. Now they're figuring out we have to undo that. So look, I'm not going to go any further. Let me just wrap up on a few things because I did miss it. Can we put up Adam's statement? Adam said urban planning is long-term projects, but long-term projects can be canceled by the next government. Toronto Transit has suffered because of this for decades. And Toronto had a nice little subway thing going. I don't know how it's going now, but they had a nice little subway thing going. JT says more freeways was a method to break up black community. Yep, because they ran them right through the black community. See how this stuff goes, brothers and sisters? I'm not talking out of my hootie hoo about infrastructure. This is real. Strong conversation. Okay, so I want to make sure we give a shout out to our sick and shut in, Sister Nancy Mustafa, Sister Ika's father. We give a shout out to Miss Eleanor. We'll give a shout out to Brother Ken Samuels. I want to give a shout out to Ahmed Khatib, lost his uncle. Shout out to Brother Zafar Chaudhry, lost his dad. From Allah, we come to Allah, we return. You know, peace and blessings to all of those folks. And we ask that Allah give you mercy and compassion and comfort and relief during these difficult times. All right. So remember, infrastructure, brothers and sisters, let's not talk about it. Let's investigate it. Do some homework on what they're doing with infrastructure projects in your area. Because when the money comes, you know, brothers, when the money comes, it's gonna go. People gonna steal that stuff. You know how it goes. Yeah, guess what? They had some infrastructure projects in Afghanistan. It was a donkey bus line. All right, stop a lot. All right. Mule train. All right. I had to let that go. I think they got one. I think they had one bus in all of Afghanistan, and the subway with one stop. There you go. So check that out about infrastructure, brothers and sisters. And like I said, this was under the space of why hurricanes matter so much, because brothers and sisters, they affect vastly our infrastructure. They are the truth tellers for whether our country has sustainable institutions, foundations. Also, hurricanes, they kind of let you know what's not working. You know, storm surges, when you put that much water in, it lets you know where things are leaky. So this is why hurricanes matter so much. Infrastructure. Okay, so let's give a shout out to our sponsors. We'll give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com, BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. You can call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. Or again, you know, like I said, go to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Check it out. Also, If you think about getting a quality graduate education or doctoral education, you can go to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Again, it's Bayan Islamic Graduate School. I did it. Alhamdulillah, I got my master's in Islamic education. Hooty hoot. But you can go too. You don't have to do Islamic education. You can do Islamic studies, Islamic leadership, and they have one of the best programs, premier program of a master's in divinity with a focus in Muslim chaplaincy. And they also have a certificate program you guys want to check out too. All right. So before we go, I want to make sure we shout you guys out. We're going to shout it out one more time. The 2058 ISNA convention is going to be happening this week, and it's going to be virtual 2021. Did I get that right, Satana? The 2021 virtual ISNA convention. You don't want to miss it. Listen, it's free. Just go register. They give you the link. They got a ton of speakers, over 100 speakers. They have a town hall on Friday. I will be performing live on Sunday, and then I'll be doing a pre-recorded performance on Saturday. I don't know why they have us do I don't know why they have pre-recorded performance. It's just dumb. I shouldn't say it's dumb. I did say it's dumb. Are you a comedian though? It's not even like you're doing comedy. It's like you're doing a deposition. I'm about to be funny. Can I say that to my lawyer? I'm about to phone. That's what it is. All right, I said it was dumb. And the reason I said that, brothers, is because it is. Hey, you can't lie. You know, that's just a Hurricane Ida jumping out of me. It's got to be truthful. Okay. So let's make sure that we keep the people who are struggling as a result of Hurricane Ida in our prayers as well. Please make sure you're praying for the people who are dealing with the rain. I told you about that sinkhole that killed 2 people in Mississippi. We have to understand that the storm is still going up. It's going northeast. So, you know, let's make sure we pay attention to these things. So listen, I got to go. You guys have been tremendous. Like I said, go to isna.net. Go ahead, get your registration, get your link, and hopefully, inshallah, I will see you there this weekend. All right, Satana, that's it. I'm out. You guys take care. I'm Preacher Moss. This is the SOS Shout Out Show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Fabulous. Very beneficial, very educational, very informative.